Hey, high school basketball fans, Brian Doyle here with Kevin Weeren. You may know us from our podcast last year, the Nova Hoopcast. We really had a good time covering basketball, high school boys basketball in Northern Virginia. We've expanded our reach. There's just too much good basketball in the D.C. area. So we're going to be the DMV Hoopcast this year, cover as much high school boys basketball as we can in Northern Virginia, D.C., and Maryland. So we're really looking forward to that. We're going to start in a couple of weeks. You can find us on iTunes, DMV Hoopcast, on Facebook. He's all over Twitter. Instagram, all over the Twitter. So look us up, DMV Hoopcast. Really looking forward to getting started on high school basketball this season. We're really happy that Chris Jolly from NovaHoops.com has invited us to talk a little bit about some of the conferences in Northern Virginia. Looking forward to a great working relationship with Chris. NovaHoops.com was a great website last year. We were all over it.
Yep.
We really used it, Chris, thanks, as a resource for us on our podcast. So we're excited to partner with Chris and NovaHoops.com. So again, DMV Hoopcast and NovaHoops.com working together this year. So we'll jump right into it. We're here to talk basketball. We're going to look at two conferences in Loudoun and one in Prince William. So we'll start with our Loudoun expert, Kevin. I think you're going to start with the Dulles Conference.
I am. Dulles District, 7 teams in the Dulles District this year. Riverside High School last year was playing 3A basketball. They moved up to 4A. But when you talk about the Dulles District, you have to talk about Loudoun Valley. Loudoun Valley state champs last year in 4A, 30-1.
They didn't lose to the championship game, right?
They did. Well, they won. They went all the way through to the championship. Won the championship. Lost to Heritage in a regular season game. Heritage also had a very good team last year, but they've got a lot coming back. Namely, Jordan Miller. Jordan Miller, I think, is one of the finest players in Northern Virginia, if not the whole state. Is already committed to George Mason University. He'll be a great player there. So he's going to have a great year, and he's going to lead the Vikings. But he's not by himself. They've got other kids who can play. Jalen Williams, senior guard. Dominic Peterson, another guard. They're good. And it's kind of, right now, Loudoun Valley and everybody else, because they've got so many people coming back, 3 other top 4 scorers, another quality year for the Vikings. Looking at the rest of the district, it's going to be tough. I'm going to talk about them alphabetically because I don't really know how to, and we don't do rankings a whole lot. We let Chris do that.
Right.
We don't want to get into the controversy of that,
No.
so we're not ranking anybody. I'm going to talk about them alphabetically, and I'll start with Dominion. Dominion is going to be a young team this year. They're 11-12. Last year, they lost their 3 scorers. Mike Elliott, who's playing at Nova, Ryan Williams, who's on the team at University of Mary Washington, and Tudor Shelton. I'm not sure if he's playing in college, but 3 very good players, very good scorers. They're young, but they have some kids who can play. One that stands out is Max Mancuso. Max is a strong kid, about 6'2". He's a sophomore. Leading scorer coming back on the team, is going to have a real good year. Also another guard, Wyatt Kruger, who's a senior, will be a good player for Sunny Green. There over at Dominion. With a lot of these teams, time will tell. How good will their younger players get? Since there's not a whole lot of returners other than that Valley group, we'll see how Dominion gets better over the year.
Who's next alphabetically, Kevin?
Alphabetically, it'd be Heritage. I'm doing my alphabet right. They were 20-5 last year, one of their best seasons ever. They lose a ton of seniors. I believe they had 8 seniors last year. Zach Garrett stands out. He's a walk-on at George Mason University.
Yeah.
Good player, 6'4", real physical, can play the guard. We'll see if he gets time over at George Mason. The good news is they have junior Nathan Olafson coming back, and he is a second leading scorer from last year, coming back over 10 points per game. They also have a lot of good athletes. They have a player named Gio Sigler, who I saw play football. He's lightning fast. He's going to be a junior. They also have another really good football player, Aaron Masis, I think his name is. And he's a very good football player. He's looking to play football at the next level. And then last but not least, they have sophomore Dylan Saley, who's a real good kid, a real good baseball player. So they don't have a whole lot coming back in terms of scoring, but they do have some good athletes.
You reminded me that Heritage was the team that gave Loudoun Valley their first
one
loss. I was at that game. I forgot they lost prior to the state tournament. That was a great game to watch. They've got a little Mason's got a little Loudoun pipeline going now with Zach Garrett there and Jordan Miller going.
Pretty neat. It's pretty neat to see. I'm an alumnus of George Mason, as is Chris, and it's pretty neat to see George Mason recruiting local players. I heard they also gave, and we'll talk about Evan Buckley later, but Evan Buckley got an offer from Dave Paulson as well. So moving on to the Dulles, next up is Loudoun County High School. Coach Mark Alexander does a great job. They were 11-13 last year. They did lose a couple all-district players, and Tyler Carroll, he's a first-team all-district player, and Chuck Turnage was a second-team all-district player. But they only have one starter from last year coming back. That's Derek McCandless. He was a significant player for last year. But a couple seniors who are good athletes, Cam Corbett, and his father, Tudor Corbett.
I coached against Tudor Corbett.
Great player at Loudoun County High School. I see him at games from time to time watching his son, but his son Cam will be a senior, and they also have Stephen Bowers of the Bowers family in Sterling Park. Good people that I know real well. Good news for Coach Alexander is the point guard position is going to be played by Matt Anderson. Matt was on varsity last year as a sophomore, had an early season injury. Had to sit out the rest of the season. He'll be back as a sophomore guard, and you might remember his brother Mike Anderson, great player for Loudoun County, just finished a really good career over at Marymount.
Yeah, if you have a good point guard, it gives you a chance, doesn't it?
It does. And as I talked to Coach Alexander, he says, we'll improve as the season goes on, and I believe that. I think that's kind of coach he is. I think once they figure things out, there'll be a team to contend with. Next up is Parkview. They struggled last year, 1-22 record, but the good news for them is they have a brand new coach, Tony Leone. He's got experience as a high school coach in Pennsylvania, I think Grove City. He was also an assistant at Quince Orchard, very good program over in Montgomery County. And I think most recently he was an assistant at Hood College, which is a D3 program over in Frederick. So
he's got his work cut out for him.
He does, but he's got the experience, and new coaches bring excitement. I think Zach Orchin did a good job, but we'll see what Coach Leone can do. Next up is the new team in the district. That's Riverside. They had a decent record last year. They were 11-12 at the 3A level. They returned Jason Odom. Jason Odom is an undersized post player. He's got that kind of off-speed ability to score. He was the returning scorer last year at 11 points per game. He's going to have to do a lot more for them. Not a whole lot of other people with varsity experience, but I think if they play as a team, can be a team to contend with later on. And last but not least is Woodgrove High School. Woodgrove struggled last year. They were 5-16, but other than Valley, they probably have the most returners coming back. They're led by Owen Fuller, who was their leading scorer last year, an all-district player. Also by Alex Owen, who was a second-team all-district last year, who's a really good shooter. They got a transfer back from St. James over in Hagerstown, Brady Drawbaugh, who can shoot the ball as well. They're big. So they did lose some kids, but they played a lot of different kids. And I think Coach Douglas at Woodgrove is very excited. And I think that'll be a good game for Loudoun Valley when they play Woodgrove. I still think Valley is a better team, but I think Woodgrove has a little more talent, a little more experience. So it'll be an exciting game in that district to watch. So I guess in summary, it's really Loudoun Valley and everyone else. And everyone else is kind of fighting for second right now. Who can get good as a team? Who can get those young players experience? Who figures out who they are? It's kind of a toss-up, which is, again, why I did it alphabetically. But a fun district to watch. And if you get a chance to watch Loudoun Valley, you'll be in for a treat. They have a good team right now, and I expect them to contend for the state title again. I don't know the rest about 4A in the state, but I know from Loudoun County they're a quality team, and I'd put them up against anybody.
Yeah, they are. They're loaded. We've talked about them on the podcast before, and I'm sure we will again this year. One of the things we've talked about is if they don't get tested much during the regular season, does that hurt them going into the playoffs? I don't think there's any doubt. I'd be shocked if they lost. Maybe if they lost a game in their district, maybe they lost one. Yeah. But how prepared are they for postseason if they don't get challenged during the regular season? We'll have to take a look at their non-conference.
I did. I checked their schedule. They play Martinsburg, who's typically a very athletic, strong team in Martinsburg, West Virginia, not far away from Valley.
Right.
I also saw they had Briarwoods on their schedule. It looks like they were missing some games. I hope that they plug in some strong teams. It'd be fun to watch. I'd love to see what they do against a Woodson or a Stonebridge. And again, their schedule's not complete, so maybe that's coming, but definitely take a look at them if you can.
Yeah, and if you haven't seen Jordan Miller play, get out and do that. He's a great one of the best, I think, in the entire D.C. area. And I think when all is said and done, he may end up, he'll be kind of a coup for George Mason.
I agree.
I think, if you've seen him play and you see the upside, I think he has the potential to play at a very high level once he moves on to college.
Great kid. He worked camp for me this summer out in Percival, and he's just an awesome person, comes from an awesome family, so we wish him the best of luck and get a chance to see him play this year.
Blue Ridge basketball camp out in Percival.
Yeah, big time, big time.
Well, thanks, Kevin. Okay, well, we'll come back to you in a few minutes for the Potomac Conference,
Yep.
right? Let's go over to Prince William a little bit and talk about the Western Conference, formerly known as the Cedar Run Conference, also known as Conference 8. We've talked about the confusion a little bit between all the realignment and different names, so I guess they are now the Western Conference. A small league, but a very competitive league out in Prince William. Spoke to all the coaches in that league, and we're both coaches. A lot of coach speak. Every one of them told me this is the toughest the league has ever been. They might be right, but every coach says that, I think, in the preseason. And I think maybe in contrast to the Dulles, they're all going to beat each other up in Western Conference. So it's going to be really interesting to see how that shakes out. Most coaches that I talk to out there feel like probably 4 of the 5 teams in that league, if things break their way, are capable of winning the league. So it's going to definitely be a really interesting league. And those teams will all be battle tested when the playoffs come around. I'm going to speak in the order is going to be the order in which they finished the regular season.
You're not going to take my way out.
No, I don't want to. I don't want to copy you and go alphabetical. So let's start with Osborne and Rocky Carter. Rocky's really done a great job with that program. Had a tremendous year last year, 18-8.
We had a chance to see them play a couple times.
Yeah, we did.
And we actually saw them play at the Wakefield Fall League
Right.
on Saturday, and Rocky was there, and we got a chance to talk to him. But what a great team he had last year. They really played together, and they were fun to watch.
Yeah, they really were. He's excited. It's been kind of a bump for their program. He said their off-season participation is better than it's been in the past. They're even when he's had interest meetings and things like that, he's got more kids coming out. So they definitely built some enthusiasm in the program.
Yeah.
Happy to see that. Rocky's worked hard at it. So as I mentioned, they were 18-8 last year. Big loss for them. Anthony Pearson, a favorite of the Nova Hoopcast. Last year, I think one of your favorite players to watch.
He was, and we retweeted his performance the other day. They played Mount St. Mary's. He had a great night.
He's up at Hood College.
Good player.
Yeah, he's really off to a great start at Hood. Rocky's had 8 guys. He told me go on to play on the college level. So again, he's really building something out there at Osborne. So happy for Rocky. He did indicate that he feels like they're not going to sneak up on anyone now. Maybe they've had that luxury in the past, but no longer after last year's season. They've lost 4 starters. He really likes the group he's got coming back. The biggest thing he's looking for is replacing the leadership and the toughness and the experience. Obviously, you've got to have talent, at any level of basketball to win games, but he feels like he's looking for people to step into that void in terms of leadership and toughness. Draco Hogan, we saw him play last year at the guard spot.
Dracu. That's the best name in the Western District.
Is it?
Yes.
Okay.
He's a good player.
See if I have any more.
Super quick.
Yeah, he's very quick, has averaged 7 as a sophomore. 2 other guys to watch, Connor Withers at 6'6", and Donovan Breeding, 6'2", both seniors. Coach Carter really pleased with the offseason those guys have had, so I think their 2 guys are going to have to step in and really fill the void by Anthony Pearson and some of his teammates from last year. Rocky and all the other coaches say the district is loaded, so let's look at some of those other teams. Battlefield, we've certainly talked about in the past. When you talk about a team being loaded, Battlefield was last year, they are again this year. You talk to coaches around the area, they all talk about how big they are, how talented they are. Last year they were 15-12. He said it was one of the stranger seasons he's had as a coach, kind of the perfect storm of injuries and sickness and just different things happening. And I think they had trouble gaining any traction during the season. I don't think the issue has been talent, and I don't think the issue will be talent this year. They did have Shinari Street last year, who's playing at the Division II level. Joe Davis playing at Mount Olive. But they've got Braden Galt coming back. I feel like we've been watching him for years.
Yeah,
out there.
he's strong.
Yeah,
big kid.
he's strong, competes really hard. He can shoot the ball. Scored 18 a game. He's got a number of offers at the collegiate level. So he's probably the leader of that group. But Julian Washington coming back. Carter Svensson is a point guard, and I saw them play.
He's a sophomore, right?
Yeah, he's a sophomore, not big. I saw them play at Potomac last year, and he was bringing the ball up early in the season, a freshman bringing the ball up against Potomac's pressure out in Woodbridge. I was just very impressed with his poise. So, as I mentioned earlier, if you've got good point guard play, it gives you a good chance. Grant Yates, 6'8", 6'9" shooter. Will Bounds, we've seen before around the basket. So again, a ton of talent, a ton of size. Can they stay healthy and stay together? And I think something that Coach Bills is really emphasizing with his guys, and I think this is a smart move on his part, is really getting back to having fun. We have to remember it's a game, and he really wants the kids to have fun, not think so much, just go out there and play. And I think his thought is if they do that, their talent will kind of take over. So they're certainly another team that's very capable of making a run, winning that league and beyond. They've got quite a program going on. He said their JV was 18-2 last year, so he's got guys coming up that we'll be talking about again. So, two quality teams right there in Osborne and Stonewall, Osborne and Battlefield. Let's talk about Stonewall a little bit. Marcus Lawrence, I didn't realize, in his 17th season at Stonewall Jackson.
You don't see that a whole lot anymore.
No, not that much. So enjoyed speaking to him. Jordan Gibson has committed to Presbyterian at Division I level. Averaged 18 a game last year, and Antonio Warner averaged 15. So that's a pretty good 1-2 punch coming back for them. Clinton Boxley is a transfer from
Manassas Park. Yeah, big kid.
Athletic kid, played quarterback on the football team at Stonewall. So he's gonna have an immediate impact. He's got some other newcomers. 6'7" Quentin Moore is coming back, returning to Stonewall from the beach area. Coach Lawrence describes him as a consummate big man. You can't teach size, so he's going to help. They also have Nathan Waddy at 6'5". He's already committed to Mary Washington. So several college players on the team. Gibson, Antonio Warner will play in college. Boxley will play something in college, I'm sure. And Nathan Waddy going to Mary Washington. So they have a lot of talent, a lot of experience. I'd certainly look for them to be right in the mix, and it wouldn't surprise me if this is their year. Then Patriot, a very interesting team, 8-15 last year. Sherman Rivers, and when I mention his name, great coaches in that league. Sherman Rivers played at William & Mary.
Potomac.
Played at Potomac.
High school grad.
Great pedigree. Rocky's done a great job. Randy Bills has done a great job with that program. Coach Rivers, in his first year last year, they were 8-15. Ended the season with a playoff win over Centerville and a double overtime loss to eventual state champion Woodson. And I just have to think, you want to keep winning, but for a young program to have that, to compete at that level in the playoffs and end your season with that is just a great springboard for their season. It's got to do wonders for their confidence.
We saw them play at Wakefield for Fall League, and they were missing a lot of kids.
Right.
But they had a big bench, and they were athletic, and you just kind of feel something around them. I tweeted that I kind of felt like they're a sleeping giant. I don't think they're going to sneak up on people. I saw them play personally last year over at Stonebridge, which if they play again is going to be a really fun game. I think it would be Stonebridge at Patriot, but I think Sherman Rivers got him headed in the right direction.
He really does. He's got a plan, and I think he's got him right where he wants to. And again, I think finishing the season with a little playoff experience will do wonders for them. They've got some talent too. Ike Onwuka and Drake Marshall were their leading scorers last year. Last year they both returned. Devon Parrish is another returning starter. They've got a newcomer, another transfer from Manassas Park, J.K. Moore, 6'5", 250. So it always helps to be able to throw that 250 around the paint a little bit. And then Jay Villani is going to be one of the top three-point shooters in that league and maybe in Northern Virginia. Another interesting fact that Coach Rivers pointed out to me, they lost 8 games by 5 points or less last year. So said they were 8-15, and so with another year of experience and some confidence, you look to kind of flip that switch and maybe those 8 games that were 5-point losses turn into 6 wins instead of the 8 losses. So they may not have the talent top to bottom that Battlefield does or that Stonewall does, but they're very well coached, and I think they're going to be very confident and certainly make some noise in that league. And after that, we've got Osborne Park. Steve Miles enters his second season there. A former Division I player, Coastal Carolina American University, a longtime assistant under Brian Metris, played for Coach Metris in high school, so certainly has a good pedigree. Two Metris assistants in that league. Rocky Carter, also a former Brian Metris assistant. They really struggled last year. I think again, he's a really solid basketball guy. They're a notch below the other 4 teams in that league, but I would certainly look for significant improvement in terms of maybe not a whole lot more wins, but I think another year in the same system and really learn what coach expects. They'll play hard and compete. So I think, in the Dulles that you talked about, it's Loudoun Valley and everybody else in the Western Conference. I think those 4 teams are going to just beat up on each other throughout the season. It'll be really, really interesting to see who's left standing. And just like we talked about, is Loudoun Valley tested when the playoffs roll around? These teams, I think, will be. There will be no question that they'll be battle tested when playoffs run around. Yeah. So there's a look at the Western Conference in Prince William County. Let's jump back out to Loudoun and take a look at the Potomac Conference.
Potomac Conference is going to be fun this year. 8 teams in the conference, and I think anyone can win it. You definitely have some teams with returners, but you've got some transfers coming in, and I think a very, very talented conference this year. And everyone said that. All the coaches I talked to said, anyone can win it. Every night's going to be tough. I'm going to take the easy way out, go alphabetically. That way I'm not ranking anybody, and we'll start with Broad Run. Broad Run was 11-10 last year, coached by John Costello, assistant coach Pat Cassidy I spoke to for the preview.
They've been there for a long time, both those guys, haven't they?
Yes.
There's a lot of value in that, I think, because like you said, coaches don't stay for a long time, just that stability, I think.
And I think what John's brought to Broad Run is an identity on who they are. They have a lot of athletes. You see them on the football field every fall. They have a lot of athletes. They go up and down. They press you. They have fun playing that way, and they're effective. And no matter where they start, I think they do get better each year, which is a really good testament to their skill as coaches. Right. But they lost Drew Johnson, who's at University of Mary Washington this year. They lost Anthony Cooper, who averaged 18 points a game. They have one returner coming back. That's Willie Jordan. He was a starter last year. But, when I talked to Coach Pat Cassidy, he's saying, we've got a lot of guys who can start. I don't necessarily know who's it going to be, but we're going to be athletic and we're going to run. So they will be tough no matter who they're playing. Next is Briar Woods. They were 8-15 last year under Kip Shallis, their coach. They've got a kid who can shoot the ball. His name's Hunter Auk. He averaged 15 points last year. He had multiple games of 20 points or higher. He can really shoot the ball. And to join him, he's got 2 sophomores out on the wing, Will Shin and Aiden Clark, both who can really shoot it. And I think that's kind of what they're going to need in order to compete with teams, but they can definitely shoot the ball. Next up is Champ. Champ was 14-11 last year, and a lot of people might know about Champ from their star player last year, Don Fergala. Led the metro area. Do they call it the metro area? Maybe DMV.
The DMV.
The DMV. It used to be.
We should do a podcast on the DMV.
I know. We should. Yeah, good idea. 36 points per game. Amazing. And we talked last year on the podcast on what a great free throw shooter he was, and he had a great year getting to the line. And some coaches were saying he's flopping. Some people were saying people give him fouls, but the guy can play. He's at Niagara right now. So they lost a ton of scoring. But like Heritage, they've got a lot of athletes. They have Tyler Savage, who's a sophomore, who averaged 9 points per game. They put him on the top of a zone, and he can jump, he can run, and he had a really good football season as well. You also have 2 great football players who are going to be seniors, and Carl Garman, who's the running back.
Oh, yeah, I saw him against Centerville.
And Cam Parsons, who's their quarterback. So, and they had a good JV team, a very athletic JV team. So I wouldn't count them out. They again don't have a whole lot of starters coming back, but they've got talent in the program, and Champ's done a really good job the last couple of years.
Yeah, the interesting thing to me will be to see where they are offensively, because those guys, even guys that return, I mean, so much offense went through Don Fregala last year, so
People keying on him,
yeah.
you know, and leaving people open, and
Right.
it'll be interesting. They're kind of a question mark, but they definitely have athletic
Right.
ability. Next up is Freedom, and we've talked about Freedom. You and I, we talked to them a little bit. We talked about them last year. I really think they have a chance to win the league this year. They won 19 games last year, which was a school record.
Right.
They were in 4A. They're moving up to 5A for the first time. But in talking to Coach, they have height, they have depth, they have athletes, and one of their best athletes is Zion Collins. Very good athlete, averaged 18 points per game, but did a lot of things. He can rebound, he can pass the ball, he can play defense. I think he's definitely a first-team All-District player and could be a scholarship college player.
Sounds like Zach Garrett a little bit, kind of an all-around kid that Heritage had.
Yeah, they're going to rely on him. He's going to take the shots, you know, come crunch time. But
Right.
like I said, they have size. Hunter Oakford, 6'6" kid, good post player, can shoot the ball. Second-team All-Region last year. I talked to Coach Justin Powers. He's getting some looks from some really strong academic D3s. One in particular is Babson, that won the D3 title last year. So he's going to have another good season, and he can shoot the ball. Anytime you got a big guy who can shoot the ball and stretches out defense, you know, that's a big threat. They also have Cleo Green, who's been a 4-year varsity player for him. He was an All-District player last year. Great leader, good ball handler, plays smart, and he'll be kind of an option when maybe Zion and Hunter are not getting the ball. Also, you have Lance Johnson, who's a sophomore, who started some games as a freshman. He's about 6'4", and plays hard, and I think, you know, he's going to have a great career at Freedom. And last but not least, Jeremy Cofield, best defender. Played on the football team in the secondary. Tough kid who's going to bring energy to Freedom. So they're going to be good, and I'm going to enjoy watching them play the Stonebridges in that league. So look out for the Freedom Eagles. I think they're going to have the best season ever in school history.
Yeah, he's done a good job with that program. Kind of has it going on right now.
He does. Next up is Pot Falls, our good friend Jeff Hawes. Jeff Hawes, kind of the dean of Loudoun County coaching.
That just means he's old, right?
Yeah, he is old like us. 19-8 last year. We got a chance to see him play against Potomac. A great game at Pot Falls in the regional tournament. And talking to Jeff, they had a great summer. He always goes to Paul Webb. They were 10-1 there. They beat West Potomac, who we know is a good team from Fairfax County. But what's going to make them go this year is Ian Anderson. Ian Anderson, athletic big man. I say about 6'5", 6'6", getting looks from Holy Cross, American, UMBC. Is going to be a top-notch player in Loudoun County. I think in Northern Virginia, he's going to make them go. He really has good body control. He gets to the basket. He can finish different ways. He can block shots. I think he surprises people with his leaping ability. He's not alone. They also have Sterling Anthony, who played a lot last year, 6'1", guard, strong, big. He's really improved his jump shot, and I think he's going to be an all-district performer for Potomac Falls. And last but not least, Coach Hawes' younger son is going to be on the varsity this year, and is a good shooter, 6'3" kid. Shoots probably a little bit better than Jeff did when Jeff was in high school.
Maybe a lot better.
Oh, maybe a lot better. But Jeff will argue that.
How many more teams are there in that league?
It's 8. Jeez. It's 8. What do you want? Just because you go with the 5-team district.
Right.
I got a lot to say. Rockridge is next. Another team that is going to be good this year, and you wouldn't think that coming off their season last year. They had a good year. They were 14-9 in 4A. They're moving up to 5A, but the reason is transfers. They have 2 really good transfers coming in. And the best, and probably one of the best players in Loudoun County now, is Alex Fitch. Alex was at William Byrd High School in Roanoke last year, averaged 16, 17 points a game. He's 6'5", he can shoot, he can finish, he's getting D1 looks. Imagine, hearing that. That's the coach's dream.
Oh, it's got to be nice. It's like Christmas morning,
It's like
somebody like that just walks in
with their dad, and you look him up, and he's 6'5", and you go, hey, I'm going to look at him on the internet, I'm going to ask people, and this guy comes in, and he's going to be a great player for him. And again, one of the best players in that district, I think a first-team all-district kid. They also have Andrew Sanderson, who moved over from Osborne Park. He was their leading scorer last year, about 8-9 points a game. So, a little bit of luck for Coach Jay Geyer, but good guy.
Yep.
I know he'll get them going in the right direction. At the point guard, they have James Larson, senior. He's been playing at that position for 4 years. He's going to have a good year. His little brother's going to play this year, Sam Larson, who's a little bit bigger than him, 6'2". He's a good player. He's going to be all-district player down the road. But interesting for Coach to be thinking in February, March, I graduated everybody, what am I going to do?
Yeah.
And now,
Yeah.
in through the doors comes two really good players, along with a good point guard coming back, and I think they're going to have a good year.
Well, how many times have we mentioned the word transfer, and we'll get into that. I know on our podcast we've wanted to talk about that. It's a reality of high school sports and college sports for that matter.
It is.
But,
and you had a good point earlier. When you talk about good teams, you're going to see 1 or 2 transfers on that team. That's just the way it is.
Yeah, it's the world we live in now.
Yeah, we could be old and be upset about it, but it's just kind of the way it is. So 2 teams left. I know you're upset that I got the bigger district. Stonebridge. Stonebridge is going to shoot threes, and they've got some really good shooters this year. They were 11 and 15. They were very young, but this year they've got coming back a couple strong seniors, and James DeLuigi, very smart, very scrappy, a very good shooter. Ben Kling, very smart, can shoot the ball. There's a common theme here.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, Evan Buckley, who's going to be a junior. We mentioned he got an offer from George Mason, has other offers out there, I think most recent from Columbia. A D1 player, been playing on the varsity team since his freshman year. They also have Tyler Warden, who played last year, and then a transfer from Riverside, Michael Jerome, who can shoot the ball. So they're going to be fun to watch. We saw Lake Braddock play on Sunday.
I'd love to see the 2 of them.
Yeah, Lake Braddock style is we're up, we shoot threes, we're down, we shoot threes.
Right.
And Stonebridge is going to be very similar in terms of the amount of threes that they shoot. They also have a big kid, Mark Williams, in the middle, who's tough, and he's playing football right now. Stonebridge always goes far in football season, so they might have him laid along with Ben King. But
they got good basketball players. Like they're more than just shooters.
Yes.
They're
I mean,
talented
Ben
basketball players.
and James and Evan, they all know how to play the game.
Yeah.
And I saw them play last year against Patriot. Again, if they play them this year, that's a game I want to go to because they're both going to be much improved. But expect big things from the Bulldogs, and they're going to be fun to watch. And last but not least is Tuscarora Huskies, home of Coach Al Smith, one of our favorites.
And his wardrobe.
Yes, he's got a great wardrobe. He's coached with us. We haven't really talked about the Nova Challenge, but that's an all-star game we run for charity for high school seniors, and we'll talk about that more in our podcast. But Al Smith has come out and helped us coaching the team. He was 16-11 last year. Tuscarora's had athletes since they've opened up.
Right.
2 of the better athletes this year will be senior Alex Bailey and junior Chandler Tootin. Both were all-district players last year. They play up and down. I think Coach Smith has got them in a position where you can't sleep on them. And that's kind of the overall theme of the entire district. You cannot go to sleep on a Tuesday night at home and think you're going to run over people. There's too much talent. And I was kind of in my head trying to figure out all district performers. I kind of like doing that. I'm not going to share anything. But
come on, give us a little hint.
I can't. But I think there's so many kids who are first team or strong second team kids that you're going to have a big group. I don't know how they do it in that district, but there's so many qualified kids who can play. And I think these teams, honestly, can compete with anybody in 5A in Prince William and or Fairfax and throughout the state. I feel that strongly about this group this year. I think Potomac is going to be a team that's going to be there when regionals come around.
Well, I think we'll put this in an envelope and seal it after after we're done here, and we'll open it up.
I also did rankings.
Yeah.
Of teams, but you need to go to novahoops.com and check their rankings out and complain to Chris Jolly because I'm not taking that parent heat. But we'll seal this and see if I was right. I think there's a lot of kids that can play, like I said, so maybe I'm wrong and maybe I miss a little bit, but fun games to watch in Potomac and sounds like in Prince William as well. Very fun. We haven't got into Arlington, Alexandria, Fairfax, any of the DC teams, which we're going to jump into this year. Prince George's County, Montgomery County. I figured it out. It's 118 teams we're going to
The
attempt to
DMV.
cover.
Yep, we'll try to cover those.
So
on the
wish
Hoopcast.
us good luck with that. This is just about a couple districts, but we're going to try to get out and do as much as we can and still stay married and pay attention to our kids.
And go to work.
Go to work
hold down
too.
our jobs.
That's right.
Hey, this is exciting, and we're recording this on Monday, the first day of practice. So we know everybody out there is going through tryouts right now. We remember what that's like as coaches. But doing this tonight gets me really excited about the season. Also makes me realize basketball in our area in Northern Virginia is in a good spot right now. We're talking about a lot of college players, a lot of quality teams, and sometimes things go up and down. But I think it's on an upswing right now.
I would say
Quite a
definitely
good
in
plus.
Loudon.
Oh, yeah.
Loudon's got 15 schools now, and that was not the case. I grew up in Loudon. There was 4 high schools, and we definitely had good players. And Billy King, who was at Duke, and some other good players. But now, I think Loudon can compete with the Prince Williams, and that's one of the things we do in the Nova Challenge is we want to see the best seniors from each county compete. So yeah, I think Loudon has arrived, but that Western District is loaded with athleticism and talent and good coaching. So I don't think you can go wrong seeing any of these teams play.
Yeah, going to be a great season. Kevin Weeren, Brian Doyle again. We look forward to working with Chris again this year on NovaHoops.com, doing some more video work with him. And certainly follow us, our podcast, DMV Hoopcast, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Check us out on iTunes. You should be able to find us all those places. So we're looking forward to seeing some basketball real soon. Thanks for joining us and listening to our little preview of these 3 districts.